Cashiers talk about suspicious items customers bought. Welcome back, guys. Cashiers are usually known for not caring about the purchases, but some purchasers do make cashiers think twice. Today, let's look at some suspicious set of items a customer has bought. Wouldn't say suspicious, but the amount of people who came in to buy large quantities of poppy seeds and a 2-liter of soda. I later understood what they did, but for the longest time I was confused as to why so many people were using their food stamp cards to buy so many bread sprinkles. Not to make anything healthy anyway. The next one's the most common suspicious set of items purchased. A box of condoms, a saddle, and a case of motor oil. I wonder what those are for. When I was a cashier, a cucumber and condoms. I wish I was kidding. Boys can sometimes have a little bit too much fun, don't they? Well, look at the next one. 3 teenage boys bought 8 cartons of eggs and 5 bags of water balloons. They placed them on the counter, and I told them, "Make sure you don't hit my car," and they all devilishly grinned at me. Maybe they wanted to give you a car wash. The next one's funny. Or is it really? Worked at Barnes & Noble's for a year. If there is something I learned from working there, it is, old people are freaky AF. This 72-year-old woman is checking out with me, and she has a couple of books. A Bible, a home and garden book, a book on grieving, and a book about sex toys, different shapes, sizes, and how to use them. We're trained not to question or comment on what purchases are being made if the purchase includes sexual content. I apparently forgot my training and said, "Looks like someone is going to have a lot of fun tonight." Insert awkward stare and silence. She looks at me and says, "Praising Jesus is always fun, if you have the right friend." I giggled awkwardly and finished ringing her up. Turns out the sex toy book was for her granddaughter, and the Bible was for her and her congregation. To this day, I still feel like Granny was going to do a weird gangbang Bible study group. Granny is going places. I worked as a cashier for a certain hardware store chain that has an affinity for the colors blue and red. My most memorable customer was a younger Hispanic guy. He approached me with a pair of tin snips and asked, quietly, if I thought they would break through the typical locks used by storage units, the round silver ones. I told him that he'd need good bolt cutters or an angle grinder would be his best bet. I helped him find a cheaper angle grinder and a variety of discs. I never asked what he was using them for, but he said his key broke off his unit's lock. I still wonder sometimes if he used it to commit crimes or not. I too wonder. Not just Walmarts, but pet stores too often see some really weird purchases. Dog collar, red rubber ball with a hole through the center for treats, leash, engravable dog tag. They didn't have a dog. Pet stores can be fun sometimes. If they don't have a dog, then what is it for? The next one's also very common suspicious purchase. Had a man once purchase duct tape, zip ties of various assortment, and trash bags. I laughed and I said, "Good luck with the kidnapping," as he left. 3 hours later, he was back with a toddler. He came through my line again and I raised a brow at him, motioning wordlessly about the boy before scanning. Guy looked confused a minute and then started laughing and said, "As you can tell, it was a success." Was he being sarcastic? The next one's a similar one too. Adult diapers, duct tape, and a blanket. Connect the dots, guys. Bosses can be weird, right? Take a look at the next one. Woman came into the shop and placed some Vaseline, a pack of extra safe condoms, and a face mask on the counter and straight up said, with a straight face, "I have to do something embarrassing for my boss." She also apparently needed a second plastic bag. Poor you. What's the worst that could happen? Someone had to quit. I worked at a supermarket in a super sketchy area, and I'm doing my thing, scanning items. I was only 16 at the time, by the way. So I see this guy come in, and this guy who looks like he's supposed to be in an insane asylum walks in. So this guy gets his stuff. I'm just hoping he doesn't come to my register. And guess what? He comes to my register. I'm freaking out inside, or freaking in. He puts a knife, a paper towel roll, and a roll of duct tape on the conveyor belt. I just checked out his things, sweating my butt off. I quit the same week because it wasn't worth minimum wage anymore. Hope you got a better job. At least the next one's funny. Or I hope. I work in a small shop. A woman with a smudge of red on her forehead and very buff came in and bought 3 rolls of duct tape and 2 rolls of our heavy-duty bin bags. From the vein popping in her forehead, I didn't want to ask what it was all for, but I summoned up the courage and she said, "I like to paint." And then I realized I was being ridiculous. That was just red paint on her head. At the time, I was relieved and confused, and since then I've learned not to judge on appearances. I bumped into her on the street, and she noticed me and said she has the perfect guy for me, her cousin. I am a straight dude. But I guess that all came full circle in the end, and that week turned into one of my funniest weeks I've ever had. Phew, that was actually funny. But the next one isn't. Worked at Walmart years ago. Couple came in and asked to buy an Xbox and several games. I rang them up, charged their credit card. Then they asked for 2 more Xboxes. I rang those up too. They got very anxious after that and they asked me to reverse all the charges and they left with nothing. After the fact, I started to suspect that they were using a stolen credit card or something and had second thoughts. Wasn't paid enough to care though. Maybe he came to check the balance of the stolen card? Okay, decide if the next person is joking. A customer came up to me and said that he was after a shaving machine for women. He said he'd be purchasing this for his girlfriend. After a few more talks, he then revealed that his girlfriend was a cat. He then walked away. Okay, he probably isn't joking. Things are gonna get scary now. Not me, but my mother. She worked at a Walgreens for some time a long time ago, and there was this guy who came in quite often, but he didn't raise any flags. Well, flash forward, and the guy murders his wife by decapitating her and throwing her in the ocean, and then he murders his children by stuffing them in an oil barrel. When he was on the run from the police, my mom didn't know that he had did that, and he bought blonde hair dye from her, along with the other few questionable items that I can't remember, just to change his appearance. Well, if that wasn't scary enough, wait till you see the next one. I worked in a pharmacy here in the UK, and a customer brought in a very old chemistry set, so they get the relevant items and teach their kid. It wasn't long after the 7/7 terror attacks in London, and some of the ingredients looked familiar. I asked the pharmacist to double check what was needed, and she asked the customer to go to the consultation room for a quick chat. Turns out, some of the ingredients could be combined to make heavily corrosive chemicals, and in the worst instance, a very crude explosive device. We denied him the sale, and the guy never kicked up a fuss, just laughed and asked that we throw the box away at our end. Okay, those were some really suspicious purchases. What do you guys think? If you have any stories to share, comment below. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye!